welcome back to another video. I know it's been a long time since the last one. Work has been absolutely brutal. I've been meaning to do this actually for a good few weeks now, but something or the other just keeps coming up and I just keep pushing this out. Nevertheless, as promised the last time, where I talked about my first scheduled maintenance experience with the Audi RS3, today I'll actually be talking about my second scheduled maintenance experience with the A4 Allroad. And because I didn't do a video for the first one, I'll actually be talking about the first and the second scheduled maintenance experience. That's at 10,000 miles and 20,000 mile services on the the Audi A4 Allroad, and also talk you through my general experience with the car. It's actually been a little over 2 years now, so it's reasonable to say that I have a pretty good idea about the good and the bad of the car. It's actually mostly good. It's been great, but there have been a few niggles here and there. And goes without saying, if you guys have any questions, any feedback, anything else that you want me to check out or talk about in the car, let me know. All right, so with that, let's get started. As I mentioned, I'll be talking about the first two and the only two scheduled maintenance that I've had done on this car. Obviously, this is the 10,000 mile service. For those of you who don't know, this is usually the free service. I have actually paid for Audi Care on the Allroad. I do that for all my Audis actually. It just pays out really well over the life of the car. Especially on these newer Audis, most of which happen to be the dual clutch, the DSG. Just the two DSG service themselves just pay out, so it's pretty awesome. Definitely think about it. So yeah, so 10,000 mile service. I think at that point in time, I had roughly about 6,000 odd miles on it. As you can see, this was done October of last year. So this is the the regular scheduled maintenance. You can see nothing crazy. They just do your typical inspections, so to speak. They did the oil filter change. They did the oil change in and of itself. It looks like they've done a few other updates and whatnot. I did have one issue, and it's funny because this exact same issue came up roughly about 2 weeks ago or so, when we had taken the car to Tahoe and we tried to actually reverse the car, and the same issue came up, wherein very randomly the rear view camera, when I engage the reverse gear, the screen is just blank. So it goes into camera mode. You can see that the interface and the screen menu changes, but it's just blank, right? And you try to toggle around the different camera views. So this is the Prestige package. So this actually comes with the surround view camera, the top view camera, and all that stuff. None of them work. You actually need to turn the car off and back on in order to be able to get the camera working again. So clearly these guys said that, they've done a scan and they couldn't find a fault. And this was, as I mentioned, 2017. So I think they just let it go as is. So, but apart from that, no other issues per se. It was working perfectly fine after that. And then likewise, exactly around the same time last year, I went in for the 20,000 mile service. This time around, this is a slightly more involved service. They need to change the the engine oil, the engine filter, do a couple of more checks and whatnot. This time around, it also looked like they had a software update for the airbag control module, which they went ahead and did. It also looks like they replaced the Bang & Olufsen door speaker trim. So this was a recall, by the way. So I think this happened almost a year ago, if I'm not mistaken, wherein they sent out a little letter for saying that 2016 and newer Audis, I think it was A4, A5, S4, S5, as well as the Allroad, that have the Bang & Olufsen speaker option. If you notice, there's actually a little strip of LED on the Bang & Olufsen speakers. Let me see if I can show you. So there you go. You can see that little strip. So in the factory, when it came from the factory, the car, this little strip was actually a piece of metal, a nice shiny piece of aluminum or some other metal. So it was built really well, but apparently for whatever reason, the way it was installed, the edge of it apparently could dislodge from the actual speaker grill. And as a result, because it's metal, their concern was someone could get cut, or worse yet, some kind of a puncture wound, right? So as a result, what they went ahead and did was they replaced all of those metal trims with what looks like plastic. But I have to say, it's not just Audi Stevens Creek. I mean, they clearly didn't do a good job, and I'll show you why. In fact, I'll probably have a picture posted somewhere on screen right now. But those neat metal pieces, trim pieces, were replaced with really cheap plastic ones. And the metal trim pieces used to actually slide in. There's a little kink underneath the LED. They used to slide in place. Whereas these, I could see this because again, Audi Stevens Creek didn't do a good job. These were just stuck on because when I got the car back from the service, on all the 4 doors, you could actually see the sticky tape on the back. I think they were put up in 1, 2, 3 different locations on each of the doors. So it was actually not even stuck on fully. So on all of them, it was slightly loose. So I actually had to go in and press it into place. I was successful in doing that on, no, it's not this one, on all but 1 door, because in one of them, there you go, that's the one. You can see what I'm talking about. So I don't know if you can see it very clearly here. There is a little sticky tape. You can hear the stickiness. It just doesn't stick. There you go. Do you see that? So it's just crap. I mean, I can't believe that the nice metal trim was just replaced with this weird plastic thing, and it doesn't even work properly. I'll get that fixed the next time around. Nevertheless, that was a little bit annoying. But honestly, apart from that, no other issues with the car, at least for this particular maintenance. And it also looks like they had done a front camera firmware update. So there is that. Now, that being said, as I mentioned, we had taken this car to Tahoe just a couple of weeks ago. And while on the trip, or I don't remember it was right before the trip, on the trip, or after the trip, the exact same camera issue came up again, wherein once again the car was engaged in reverse and you would not be able to see the actual camera show up. It changes the interface to the camera mode per se, but the actual camera itself is blank. I'll actually insert a little video at the bottom, because this time around, based on my RS3 exhaust experience, I realized that the dealer isn't going to give a crap until I actually show some proof. So I recorded a video of the malfunction. So hopefully they actually do something about it. Apart from that, the second issue that I've had is the fact that for some reason the key on this car, I don't know why it loses charge. It's losing charge much faster than any other car or any other key that I've had. I've already had to, in 2 years, I've actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, swapped the battery twice. It's almost becoming an annual thing, which is very strange because, I mean, we don't use it any differently from any of the other keys. Obviously, it's a keyless entry system. My S4 is not, so that makes a big difference because my S4 is now in its 8th year on the original batteries. This is on the 2nd year with the second set of batteries. The RS3 is now over a year old and I don't seem to have any issues with it. But nevertheless, so the funny thing is the first time around, I actually got a little message in the virtual cockpit letting me know that the key fob battery is weak or low and it needs to be changed. So I eventually ended up doing that. This time around, interestingly, I did not get that message, or at least I did not get that message until I started seeing some other strange issues. For one, my wife actually kept complaining that every now and then when she puts the car in reverse, the right side mirror would not dip. And for those of you who know, when on most new Audis, especially with the memory seat function, and in fact even some of them without it, like my RS3, when the mirror control is kept by default to the right hand point to the right hand side mirror, when you engage reverse, the right side mirror will actually dip down to show you the curb side. So she kept complaining that that wasn't happening. And then a couple of days later, I also noticed that when I actually use my key, so I have one key and my wife has another key, that's the whole point of the memory system. I realized that when I unlock the car using my key and open the door, the seat wouldn't go back to the original position. And so I actually went into the vehicle settings and I went into the seat menu. It wouldn't let me select this. It was grayed out. It actually said that system was unavailable. First, I freaked out a bit and I was like, okay, good God, I hope there isn't some kind of a component failure. But then it struck me that both the memory system for the mirror, the dipping, as well as this are tied to the key, the memory. So, and that's when I figured that it's possible that, if I should try swapping the battery in the key fob first before, going into full-blown panic. And lo and behold, swapping the battery in the key fob did the trick. So as you can see, I can go in and there you go, store the settings on the remote key. So that works now. But the strange thing is that the second time around, I actually didn't get the low battery in the key fob message. So that's kind of weird, and that kind of bugged me a little bit. And every now and then I do get a message on the virtual cockpit that says that the traffic sign recognition system isn't available. I don't think that's an issue. I think based on what is actually visible to the camera up over there, the system arbitrarily decides that it's binary, right? It either can or cannot. It plays it safe. It doesn't try to take a risk. So again, minor niggles, nothing major, but that is something to keep in mind. And the one last thing, and this is actually not about the Allroad, but about the TPMS, the tire pressure monitoring system in general on Audis, especially the ones that don't have the direct TPMS, which is the actual wireless sensors built into the stem, the valve stem on each of the wheels. And actually a majority of the Audi sold in the US don't have it. I know that the RS3, it's an option, at least for the 2017 and 2018 model year. I think it's become standard on the 2019, but nevertheless, apart from some fairly high spec Audis, for whatever strange and dumb reason in the US, Audi will only default to the indirect TPMS system, which uses the ABS controller to estimate what your if the wheel tire pressure is off. Holy crap, it's beyond useless. I mean, it's so useless that they shouldn't really even be advertising or claiming that it's a feature, because I didn't realize that on, I think it was the left rear tire, this one over here, there was a slow leak, a puncture. And as a result of that, obviously I was losing air. And I came home, I parked the car and all that stuff. And, the next day morning I realized, holy crap, I'm low on air. And I got the thing, I took just the wheel out because I didn't want to leave the car at the tire shop. I just took the tire out and took it myself to the tire shop and got it replaced and put the thing back in. And it didn't complain. It only complained the morning when the tire was flat. It's only a couple of days later did I realize that, oh wow, when this tire was being patched, it probably had its air set to spec. Let me go around and check all the other tires. And lo and behold, one was 12 psi off and the other two were 10 psi off. I mean, that's kind of bonkers. If one tire is, the spec is 35 and the message doesn't go off even if the other tires are 25, that's just, the thing is useless. And so what I did at that point in time is actually ran out and measured the cold air, and that's important, to measure the cold air pressure on my RS3 and the S4. And that's exactly what happened on the S4 specifically. It was off by 15 psi and the damn tire pressure monitor never kicked in. So I'm usually pretty thorough about this. I tend to actually check and pressure the tires every 2 months or so. I'm pretty religious about it. It's just that, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's been pretty brutal at work and everything, so I've had the time. But my point is, for those of you with the indirect TPMS, please don't rely on it. It's probably one of the most useless setups out there. So take the time to actually get one of those digital tire pressure gauges off of Amazon. They're super cheap, like 10 bucks, 15 bucks at most. Keep that in your glove box and make sure once a month, or at most once in 2 months, check the tire pressure and fill it up. But yeah, apart from that, as I mentioned, the car has actually been pretty awesome. We've made really good use of the car. This is our de facto road trip car. As I've shown you in previous videos, we've got 2 dogs, so they're really comfortable out back. We've had full 4 adults in this with their all their baggage in the roof box that you see up over there. I typically have that placed onto the roof of the car when we're going on trips and all that stuff. So it's been really, really good. It's extremely fuel efficient on road trips. Shockingly so, not quite to the same level as a Volkswagen TDI, the Jetta sport wagon that we had. But if you don't drive like an ass, you can easily get 32-33 miles per gallon on this, which is actually pretty damn awesome for a car that is spec the way it is and performs the way it is. So a really, really good car. I definitely recommend this to anyone who's looking for a mid-size family vehicle. In my personal opinion, definitely a better choice than the Q5. So let me know if you guys have any other questions. As I mentioned, I'm going to try to do another couple videos over the coming weeks and months, but it's going to be difficult for me to promise that. But the next few videos are actually going to be fun, because I need to do a full brake change on my S4, not just the pads, but the discs as well. I've already ordered the parts, some from ECS and a few others from Deutsche Auto. So I hope to make a video out of that. That should be fun. And I also actually am planning on doing a manual transmission fluid flush on the S4. Should be easy and that should be fun. And what's going to make things exciting is the fact that I actually ended up getting quick jacks. For those of you who don't know what quick jacks are, I recommend you Google it. So that should make working underneath the car a whole lot more fun and a whole lot easier. But yeah, let me know if any other questions, any other concerns, any other feedback. And with that, I'll call it a day. Thanks, guys. Oh, actually, a quick add-on. I just realized I forgot to mention this, and maybe some of you already know this. But for those who don't, at least in the US, Audi is actually, for those of you who are familiar, Audi has this thing called the Audi Connect service, which obviously it's their telematics slash LTE whatever service, wherein you can actually let me go in and show you. You can look at a bunch of different features and whatnot while in the car, and in addition to this, they actually have an equivalent app that you install on your phone. I think it's called the My Audi or My Audi Connect app that you install on your phone, and you can actually look up different specs of the car, like the fuel level, the oil level. You can lock and unlock the car, although that feature, by the way, is only available on the A4 and up, the B9 generation. It's not there on the A3, S3, RS3, because it uses a completely different infotainment setup, even though it looks and feels the same. So anyway, this was all essentially a 6-month trial, and then you had to pay some god-awful rates for what Audi call the Audi Connect Prime and Audi Connect Plus subscriptions. One was for the LTE data package, and the other was to be able to make use of all of this and the app. That was just simply stupid. It was some crazy amount, like I think 25 bucks a month to be able to lock and unlock your car through the app. The good news is that saner minds seem to have prevailed at Audi. So at least some of the Audi Connect features have now been enabled for free for existing users. Obviously, you can see a lot of it still says that my trial subscription has expired, but these decidedly are all the less useful features, frankly, at least not paid anyway. Whereas I'll have some screenshots up on right now on the screen. The good useful stuff that talks about the days or miles to go until your next service, your fuel, remaining fuel, your oil, remaining oil, and all that good stuff is now free. So if you haven't already made use of that, please make sure to set up your Audi Connect service and install the My Audi app on your phone and put it to good use.